right, guys, welcome back to yet another edition of a Native MMA Radio. My name is Randall, folks. This guy to my left, he could be to my right. I really don't know. Look, Waleed's one of these ways over here. How you doing, Wally Wall?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Doing very well. Wally Wall is in France right now, chilling. Let me tell you what, man, I am excited about this new card. But before we get into that, I do want to tell you guys we have an Instagram, Facebook, YouTube channel, all that stuff. Go like it, subscribe, comment, tell us all your favorite stuff. We'd love to reply back to you guys and have this, camaraderie back and forth. Waleed will be there all the time replying to you guys. But anyways, let's get back to this card, man. Max Holloway steps in to a fight for the first time in a very long time where he's not fighting for a title. And this time it's a main event against Calvin Kattar. Huge significance to these cards, though. It is the very first card ever on ABC, and it is the very first card ever in the Flash Forum. So there will be fans available to be coming to these fights, I believe, and super excited for all that, man. It is at noon here in the States. It's over there for you guys. I believe you said it was 9 o'clock down there in France. So you guys get to actually enjoy a fight night. That's when the main card starts. The prelims are at 9 a.m. here on the West Coast. So what is that for you guys? Fucking 7, 6? Anyways, you're enjoying fights.
Like that. Yeah, that's actually like maybe one of the few cards the year that I get to watch like in a normal time, kind of.
Yeah, man, some sneaky big names on this card. You and I were, just going through it, and talking about, we really didn't know a whole lot about it until, you and I started breaking it down the last couple of days. But Santiago Ponzinibbio is on this card. Joaquin Buckley's making a return after his knockout of the year. I mean, we finally got guys like Carlos Condit and Matt Brown in the cage locked together.
Yeah.
Thinking about how long they've both been in the UFC, it's kind of crazy that those two have never collided before. You have Justin Tafa going up against Carlos Felipe. Sorry, did I interrupt you?
No. Continue.
And then you have Jacob Kilbourne, who was just on our show this last week. You can go listen to that interview right now on the Native MMA YouTube or Facebook page. Either one, it's a good listen. He talks about preparing for his fight with Ligo. But for you, man, outside of that, obviously beautiful Kattar versus Max Holloway main event, what is the most important fight to you?
Well, I've been talking about him like maybe not in every single episode, but I feel like every time we spoke about the welterweight division, Santiago Ponzinibbio, I've been talking about him. People
Yes, for sure.
They're forgetting.
It's a name that you definitely bring up.
Yeah, they forget about him. The guy he's in a 7-fight winning streak right now. He defeated the likes of Gunnar Nelson, Mike Perry, Neil Magny, just to name a few. So the fact that people forgot about him, I found it weird that nobody gave any information about him. Was he suspended?
Like, how was this?
Was he injured? What the fuck? We didn't know.
But how was this not publicized? Way more. Like, this should have been pushed like crazy. Like, Ponzinibbio's coming back. It's a huge name in that division. If you think about it, it puts another logjam on who can fight for the title.
Like, we know.
What's his win streak again? You said 5, 6,
7.
7. Sorry. So 7-fight win streak. The second longest, I believe, Leon Edwards has like a 9-fight win streak.
Yeah.
But still, the second longest win streak outside of the champion. That's pretty impressive.
What's more crazy for me is that when a fighter like Felicia Herrig is taking pictures of her feet, but when it comes to a maybe top-ranked welterweight fighter who can easily be like in a title picture with 2 maybe or 3 more wins, we don't know anything about him. He didn't fight maybe in the last year or 2. And nobody cares. Nobody's talking about him. Who gives a fuck? His last fight was in November 2018.
All that tells me is I should be checking out Felice Herring's feet.
Exactly.
Now let's go ahead and jump right into this card. We're going to talk about the guy who obviously we had on this last week, Jacob Kilbourne, taking on Austin Lingo. Jacob talked about being, a completely different fighter now, and that you're going to see a new evolution of him in this fight against Austin Lingo. It's a very exciting matchup. Lingo 7-1, Jake Kilbourne 8-3. What are you looking forward to in this matchup?
Well, that's a very interesting matchup. Both fighters, second fight in the UFC. Both of them lost their first fight, so I feel like it's like they feel like maybe it's their last chance, even though that doesn't mean that they would get the axe. Either way,
It's
if they win
definitely
or
time
lose,
to
but
impress, though.
yeah, it's definitely the time. It's the place also in the Flash Forum. Nothing better. What did he say to you about moving to the Flash Forum? Is he excited about where he's fighting
No,
right
he
now?
wanted to be in Vegas, honestly. He would have much rather have been there, but he was open for anything. He just wanted to get a fighting.
A lot of people get impressed when they move there, so he wasn't like that. He didn't.
No. No,
Okay.
he told me straight up he would have much rather had it in Las Vegas so that way he could have had his wife out there with him and he could have had a more, homely feel.
Well, listen, 2020 been the year of where you need to jump on opportunities. 2021, I feel like will be the same when it comes to MMA.
100%.
So when the opportunity come knocking on your door, you just jump in.
Just jump. Yeah, like he said, he didn't know exactly where the fight was going to be. He just knew
Yeah.
he was getting a fight, and that's all that really mattered. Up next in the women's bantamweight division, Sarah Cupcake Morris is taking on Vanessa Mello. Good friend of the show, Vanessa Mello. She's 8-3. Unfortunately, I don't think what Vanessa has been successful in the UFC yet. Unfortunately, with a loss here, I think that would put her right on the outside looking in of possibly getting cut in the UFC.
Yeah, that's definitely an option, but like these in the females division, the MMA record sometimes is so messed up. You have like the number of wins equal the number of losses, and fighters not getting the axe. It is what it is. The level
Yeah,
of
but the
the competition
UFC
is very
is
high.
openly cutting people right now. They did
Yeah.
talk about it before. Dana, I believe he said it came out and said 60 fighters. We've maybe seen a handful of guys go. It'll be interesting when you look at people like Mello and even Morris at that. Morris is 4-1 in the UFC in her 5 fights. So, I mean, even with the loss here against Mello, she could be on the outside looking in on this could realistically be for who wants a job tomorrow fight.
She could be, yeah, she could like maybe both of them. Even if she wins, maybe she will get kicked out. But and when it comes to this division, I feel like there's no, but maybe not. You know what I mean? Some female fighters also have the same type of record, the same type of losing streak, and in the female division, and they are
Listen,
still
when I
there.
seen that they released Rachel Ostovich, knowing what she can do outside of the cage, I was super surprised on that. I don't think that they would cut anyone else. I mean, I think they'd be open to cutting anybody at this point.
I'm not sure. Rachel, even I think maybe even Rachel wanted to leave.
Oh, I'm sure she did. I'm sure she realized there was money elsewhere. When you look at Paige Van Zant and the money she got from Bare Knuckle FC, we were talking about BKFC earlier, you and I. It's crazy when you think about that. There's money elsewhere. Anthony
Exactly.
Pettis was said to have signed the biggest contract he's ever signed in his career, leaving the UFC to go to PFL. There's definitely money to be made out there. I mean, you've seen another
That's
two
good.
big names jump to Bellator.
Well, it's good, and it keeps the UFC having only top fighters. Showtime Perez
Yes,
had nothing to prove in the UFC. He fought everyone in
I'm
every
excited about
division.
that Nathan Schultz
Exactly.
matchup eventually one day.
Fighters need challenges.
100%. Now in the welterweight division, David Zawada is taking on Razan Imave. I'm excited about this one, man. I know you're a big Imave fan. The dude's takedown is ridiculous. And I mean, let's be for real about this. If you're Imave and you just seen a Zawada beat under Magomedov, you're going to want to go in there and, get one back for your countrymen.
Well, I feel like, listen, a Russian who can wrestle, that we've seen that. We,
Two
we I
takedowns average per 15 minutes.
I think we see that in actually maybe in every fucking division in the UFC right now. We have a Russian who take people down. So this is a very interesting matchup. Actually don't know a lot about both fighters. I will not lie to you, but
David
uh,
Zawada likes to go in there and get into like firefights. He,
yeah.
gives a punch to take a punch. And his biggest downfall, I think, is going to be his grappling when it comes into this. But he does have the capability of submitting Imavov off his back, so that's an interesting one to look for as well.
Ramzan been in the UFC for a while. He's been like here. His first fight in the UFC was against Sam Alvey. I remember it right now. And
Yes.
yeah, so it's been a while since he's here. I feel like another win should be very important for him to move up the ladder. Both of them.
In the heavyweight division, we have Carlos Felipe taking on Justin Tafa. I know you're a big fan of Justin Tafa, man. I am as well. He's only 4-1. He's very new. He came in with a lot of hype behind him,
Yeah.
losing to Jorgen De Castro, and then coming up and knocking Juan Adams out of the UFC. This guy has spent zero time on the mat. I think this one is going to stay standing as well with Felipe. I honestly thought Jorgen De Castro was going to go in there and beat Felipe in his last fight, but Felipe was able to out kickbox Jorgen and make him tired. This would be an interesting one. I think the longer people wait on Justin Tafa, I think the best time to fight him is now. The longer you wait, the better he's going to get, and the more time he gets in the octagon. He's only 4-1. The more time he has in the octagon, the more scarier he's going to be, and that is one very dangerous individual.
And I feel like for his first fight in the UFC against De Castro, everybody like he had the spotlight. I feel like maybe that was too much for him. Everybody was waiting for him to win, and he lost. And now that people are not
it was
focused
in
on him.
Australia. You know what I mean? It was set up for him to be in his hometown to get a big win and to do it, with Whitaker on the same card. It just didn't happen.
And he's very young, 27 for a heavyweight. That's very young, and only 5.
Yeah, when you look at the heavyweight
fights.
division, and it's like 39-year-olds running it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the dinosaur division, and he's very young. I feel like this could be his fight. I like the fact that we're having a heavyweight division in the middle, even though 100%. I would rather have them to start. I'd rather have heavyweight.
You love the heavyweight starting the card.
They know I should listen to me, but anyway, that's a very impressive matchup. I really like this one. Tafa.
I think it catapults either one of these gentlemen, because I think at this point, beating Justin Tafa is something to talk about. You can't balk at his 4-1 record thinking that he's a nobody. He trains with killers, and he's literally got elite striking.
And Carlos Felipe, man, is a dark horse. Everybody was thinking that we will see him lose against De Castro. That's not what happened, so who knows? But in my opinion, that this is the time for Tafa to shine.
100%. Now, in the women's bantamweight division, you have Yan Wu versus Jocelyn Edwards. I'm excited about this one. Yan Wu beat our good friend Nadia Kassim, and ever since then, I've been kind of keeping an eye on her. It's an interesting matchup. Wu is obviously a striker, doesn't spend much time on the ground. I honestly don't really know if this one's going to go to the ground at all. If I was Edwards, that would be my game plan going into it. This is Edwards' UFC debut. Originally, it was supposed to be Betcha Correa, our fucking lovely, beautiful fighter named Betcha Correa. Look, can we talk about Betcha Correa real quick?
You always need to talk about her. Can we not talk about her for what?
Big booty was supposed to be fighting this weekend against Wu, and it's not happening no more. And I'm very sad about that. We only get to see it one more time in the octagon. It's gonna be fucking fabulous. Let me tell you what. But back to this fight, okay? Jocelyn Edwards would be smart to take down Wu, and that would be my game plan going into it. And I hope La Pantera thinks the same thing, because listen, Mulan's striking is legit.
It is legit, and we have a Chinese invasion in the females division.
9 strikes per minute.
Yeah, she's very impressive.
An Asian lady to be holding the strawweight title, and it was not Weili Jing.
Very impressive. Jocelyn, it's her first fight in the UFC, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's very intriguing. I feel like
I believe she took the fight on like 3-4 weeks notice. We've known that Betcha was going to be out.
I'm not sure. I think something like that, but
trust me, I know.
Okay, so she should jump in. That's how it's going on right now. You
It
always
doesn't
be the
really
champion.
seem like that. Oh, it was like a short notice fight. It kind of seemed like she had about 4 weeks to take advantage of it, so she should be very well prepared for this matchup.
Yeah, she should be. But like you said, Mulan, I feel like her striking could be a huge difference in this fight.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Wu one more time,
Yeah.
and we'll see what she can do. Now, in the middleweight division, Philip Haas is taking on Nasruddin Imavov, and that is in the featured fight of the preliminary card. And obviously, those fights are on ESPN Plus, not on ABC. But the battle of the night in two middleweights, and let me tell you what, this is going to be a great matchup. These two, let's just start with Philip Haas, okay? He
Yeah.
spends like 2 seconds in the fucking cage, and he murks people when he does so. Outside of losing to Julian Marquez on the Contender Series, he's looked phenomenal ever since then. And the dude's built like a Mack truck.
Yeah.
Nasruddin Umarov won a very impressive fight when he came into the UFC against Jordan Williams, looking to do the same thing again. Obviously, takedowns were super big in that fight against Williams. See if we can do the same thing against Haas.
And that should be the game plan. You don't stand against a guy like Phil House. You know that he can knock you out cold in the very first seconds of the fight.
Yes,
And
he's got scary power, especially for a 185 pounder.
Phil House got stopped by Lewis Taylor, who is a great fighter in PFL, one of
Mhm.
the friends, close friends and training partner of Bilal Muhammad. And I really enjoy. He have kind of one of the best Instagram account down
Oh,
there.
100%.
Yeah.
Like I talk to him all the time. I'm like, listen, bro, I just want to be Louis Taylor when I grow up.
His Instagram is good, but back to the fight. Like you said, Nasruddin Ivanov, maybe the game plan should be the takedown, and I agree with you. You should take the fight to the ground as early as possible.
Like just run. But then that's the thing. Like
Yeah.
Haas is so athletic. I mean, I would love to see him and Buckley somewhere down the road. Haas is so athletic though that you don't know what he's able to do. Like, what if he flying knees him like Jorge Masvidal style?
That's a possibility. That's why you should. It's all about timing.
All about timing. In the very first fight of the main card, that is the main card that starts around noon on the West Coast and 9 if you're in France. For all you people who are super worried about people in France, nobody.
There's nobody's giving a fuck about
Middleweight
me.
matchup between Punahele Soriano Puna versus Dusko Torodov. I'm excited to see Puna back in the cage. He's obviously undefeated 7-0. He's got a perfect 2-0 record in the UFC. Young guy. Actually, sorry, let me take that back. Torodov is actually younger than he is.
Both of
But
them are young.
both of them are super impressive. Obviously, Puliano's grappling, I think, is tremendous. He's got an 80% takedown accuracy.
Yeah.
And just when he comes to striking, he's flawless and efficient.
Both of them. I always enjoy
Not
having
like super crazy striking, but flawless and efficient.
Yeah, and I always enjoy having two fighters with an undefeated record. You know that none of them want to lose because
Yeah, they're hungry.
fighters with undefeated record, that undefeated record, that the fact that you have like zero
Yeah, that
losses is
O
very
means
important.
everything.
It means everything, and you know that they will go there and try to kill. So very interesting. A strong fight to start the main card.
It's like the battle of the middleweights and the welterweights on this main card. Mr. Highlight Reel, Joaquin Buckley steps in against Alessio Di Chirico. I'm excited about this one, man. Obviously, now at this point, you have to be excited.
Yeah.
After what you've seen him do to Inca to have the huge knockout of the year, and then what he was able to do against Jordan Wright. I was super impressed with Jordan Wright. He knocked out Ike Villanueva, who we are going to be having on the show later on this week. Check out for that interview to drop. What he was able to do when he cut him open very early in that fight and win was impressive. I thought that they were setting that fight up for Wright to take all of Buckley's hype. And Buckley just went in there, marched him down, and knocked him out. It was that simple.
Yeah.
This is an interesting fight. Both guys have scary power. but Buckley has that like one shot knockout power
And
and
Buckley
100% takedown defense to go along with it.
And Buckley right now he's in a cloud. He's not even in the planets. After that
No,
KO, that highlight reel, that maybe greatest
100%.
knockout in the last, maybe in this century. Uh, his level of
That'll be on
confidence,
highlight reels forever.
dude. That level of confidence, I feel like if he didn't have that level of confidence, he would not maybe stop Jordan Wright. That's what I feel, because you need to be like not giving a fuck
Yeah, he
anymore.
literally
Yeah.
like you didn't give a fuck. He walked down Jordan Wright, and it was super impressive, man.
And it's very important. And when you see a guy like Alessio Del Chirico, who's in a three-fight losing streak right now, always losing by decision, which is frustrating, it makes me think that maybe Buckley in this fight have another chance, because Alessio is fighting knowing that maybe another loss will get him kicked out of the UFC.
And that's got to be lingering in a lot of people's minds. We look at the next matchup, in the welterweight division, Li Jiliang could very well, with a loss here, be looking on his way out too. I mean, that would be two in a row losses, Magny and to now Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio returning to face Li Jiliang. It's an exciting matchup in the welterweight division. You and I obviously talked about it earlier. Santiago Ponzinibbio returning to the welterweight division. You said he was on a 7-fight win streak. His last 5 were guys against Zach Cumming, Nordine Talib, Gunnar Nelson, Mr. Mike Perry, and this Wednesday's main event, Neil Magny.
People forget.
Yeah.
People also forget about the eye pokes against Gunnar Nelson. I feel like
I don't forget. He poked the shit out of Gunnar Nelson.
the fight lasted like 1 minute and 20 seconds, and he eye poked him more than the number of seconds in that fight. I feel like he eye poked him 2 times per second. That was crazy. I never seen so many eye pokes. Like John Jones was like with a notebook writing, he was studying those eye pokes. Anderson Silva was studying those eye pokes. That's not easy to do that much eye pokes without getting like kind of a yellow card.
No stop, nothing.
But that's
interesting note that I do want to point out. We did say that Neil Magny's Ponzinibbio's last win was against Neil Magny. Yeah. Li Jingliang's last fight was against Neil Magny in a losing effort against him.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important to point out. Obviously, MMA math isn't huge. I wouldn't put a lot of emphasis in it. Don't bet your house on it. But it is an interesting thing to look at, because the way Ponzinibbio was able to do it was pretty much effortlessly. Now, I do want to talk about Magny. I'll get into it more next week. I feel like we are seeing an evolution of him. I feel like after he got popped for PEDs, we've actually seen a better version of Neil Magny, if you can believe it or not. But we'll talk about that all more next week, probably around Monday when we talk about that card. But yeah, I'm excited for this matchup, man, to see Ponzinibbio back. And like I said, with a win, he's literally easily 1 win away from a title shot. He was supposed to fight Usman a while ago, and a lot of people were saying that Ponzinibbio's skill set was the best to fight somebody like an Usman. So it's definitely an interesting matchup.
A guy like Colby came from behind him and actually leapfrogged him and went for fighting for a belt.
Yes.
And winning an interim belt.
He won that title?
The interim one, yeah.
Yeah, he did? What happened when he tried to unify that title?
No. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to sell. Come on, man. I'm not trying to sell Colby. I'm just saying like how life sometimes is unfair and how life is crazy.
I'm trying to sell Kamaru Usman.
You don't need
against
that.
Gilbert Burns. We'll talk about that later.
We don't want to talk about that later. But I'm actually intrigued in this fight. Santiago Ponzinibbio, we don't know what kind of version we will see. He's 33-year-old. Maybe he's past his prime. We don't know. Maybe
DC said that he is, obviously, because Santiago does a lot of the Latin America commentary and stuff like that, and some of the post-fight shows and stuff. So DC says he's in phenomenal shape and that he's looking forward to seeing Santiago perform again this week.
I hope so. He can be like the dark horse of this welterweight division that's been like kind of in a snooze mode. Nobody wants to fight nobody, so maybe he will jump in and he'll fight everyone.
Now, every single time we have big cards like this, we debut on ABC, the first fight's on Fox, the very first Ultimate Fighter finale. There was always that one fight that stands out to you that it really makes a huge difference, and it's like an everlasting moment that's stuck in your brain. I feel like this fight and the co-main event against Carlos Condit and Matt Brown in the welterweight division is one of those. It's a fan favorite matchup. Granted, we're getting it probably about 4 years too late.
Yeah.
Carlos Condit is on, a one fight win streak, but he lost 4 in a row before that.
5.
Oh, sorry, 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Matt Brown has lost 1 of his last 3, so his record looks a little better. But definitely, this fight would have been a million times better 5 years ago. But it is still going to be very good nonetheless here in 2021. I'm excited we're going to see it, and I truly feel like it's going to be one of those instant classics. There's no huge implications on the line, but you know that both of these guys don't give a fuck what's on the line, that they just want to go in there and scrap. So it's just a tremendous fan-friendly matchup between two great styles.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the friendly one, because when you look at Matt Brown, there's nothing friendly about that guy.
No.
About the Immortal, there's nothing friendly. Just go watch his elbow against Diego Sanchez. I feel like that's one of the nastiest elbows we ever seen. That was like a bully trying to bully a kid. Like he hold his leg and then he just had his head, like he positioned his head and then just elbow him and just like walk out elbow knockout, which was crazy. Carlos Condit, man. What can I say about Carlos Condit? He robbed us from that Nick Diaz title, interim title belt, and afterward we didn't see anything positive from him.
Robbed us.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm not about him, but you know what I mean.
Carlos Condit, because listen, he gave us another great fight against Robbie Lawler for the title. Just tremendous performance. I honestly thought he beat Lawler that night, but that's obviously we could talk about that for hours. We can go back. We could have a whole episode just about referee fuck ups. Yeah. And I think the number one is going to be John Jones still holding that light heavyweight title after his last fight in Houston. But again, we will talk about all that stuff on another day.
Let's go back to the fights.
This is an interesting matchup. Both orthodox fighters, both guys at the twilight of their career. But if you look at just the numbers that they've been able to compile in the long time that they've been in the UFC, both guys have over a 3.5 striking lands per minute. That's super impressive when you think about guys with well over double-digit fights in the UFC. Striking accuracy for Matt Brown is 54%. The defense for both of them is over 50%. Crazy what they've been able to do in the longevity they've been able to have and the success that they found in that longevity. This is just, like I said, a great fight for the fans, and I'm excited to see this one out.
I feel like the fact that it's a fight between both of them past their primes is in Matt Brown's advantage, because in my opinion, if it was in their prime, Carlos Condit was a straight killer. Like he'd been fighting against
like a natural born killer almost.
Exactly. So, and that's his nickname. So yeah, very smart, very smart, Randall, very smart. But yeah, past their primes, Matt Brown is actually looking decent in his fights. Condit, otherwise, people been talking about he should retire and stuff like
that. All right, look kind of good. Listen, I was shooting that. I guess to get the fuck out of here. But his last fight really impressed me.
Exactly. Against Court McGee, he looked good. But, well, what can I say? Court McGee is kind of in the same position as they are, both of them. So, very intriguing, in my opinion. But I would root for Matt Brown.
These are the type of matchups I want to see for these guys. Like, what's the point of putting them up against, the young killers in the welterweight division? There's no point in either one of these guys fighting a Santiago Ponzinibbio on his return. But to have these two fight right now at this point in their career is the best idea, because if you really think about it, there's no huge implications if either one of them wins, and there's no huge implications if either one of them loses. So really, they're going to both go out there and put it all on the line.
That's what we need to see. Like you said, we have these type of fights in the heavyweight division between the almost kind of retired fighters, Shogun, who are fighting in the light heavyweight division with the likes of having these types of fights, and
Yes.
that's what we want to see.
Now, one thing that I've been excited to see since his last fight, and some would argue that he won his last fight, and we are talking
Yeah.
about the featherweight champion of the world. But Max Holloway, unfortunately, was not crowned champion that night. Another one we could talk about where the referees might have screwed it up is going to be returning the former featherweight champion Max Holloway to take on Calvin Kattar, the young uprise out of New England. That, New England Mafia, man, those guys are really tuning into a fine oil team.
Yeah.
The huge win against Dan Ige was super impressive. What he was able to do against Jeremy Stevens, and then even in a losing effort against Zabit, really made him look human. Calvin
Yeah.
Kattar is a huge problem for anybody in the featherweight division, and if people think that Max Holloway is overlooking him, they are far mistaken. And if people think that Calvin Kattar cannot go in there on Saturday afternoon and beat Max Holloway in the octagon over 3 rounds or have a huge knockout, I think that you guys are sorely mistaken on what this young man Calvin Kattar can do.
Well, I feel like there's a lot of chances to see a finish. When it comes to striking, to boxing, Kelvin is on another level.
Yes.
Precision, head movement, those uppercuts he throw, it's in another dimension. And Holloway, when Holloway's in his top level, we've seen what he did to a Jose Aldo, to a Frankie Edgar, to a Brian Ortega. He schools you. He doesn't even just beat you. He schools you. He really
He
teach you a
literally was
lesson.
giving a striking lesson when he fought Brian Ortega, who's the
Literally,
number one contender right now.
literally. So this is just how amazing this fight is. Personally, I need to say it out loud. I feel like kind of win or lose, Holloway should be thinking about moving to the lightweight division. I think that it's his time. He proved everything. There's nothing more to prove in this featherweight division. He's been the king. He fought against the
I think.
king.
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
He should in his almost 30, I feel like weight cuts kind of will start to become a problem. So why hurt your body when you can move up a ladder, move up the weight class? We've seen his fight against Dustin Poirier. Maybe it
Yes.
wasn't that time
But
then.
Poirier, in his new contract, wrote in he's going to be moving up to welterweight. We talked about this in the award show. In my
Interesting.
opinion, he's on his way to welterweight. It actually did come to fruition in his new contract. He signed to fight at welterweight. So when you look at Dustin Poirier, you can just tell that his body was getting even too big for the 155-pound division.
All the way if he moves up to light heavyweight, first of all, you know that he will not
If
fight from
Holloway
the bottom
moved
of the
up to
ladder.
light heavyweight, I would be super intrigued with all those matchups. I think he could fight Volkan Oezdemir.
Yeah.
He could fight Jiri Proganov.
There's a
Max
lot of
Holloway
fights.
cannot go to light heavyweight.
No, not light heavyweight, lightweight. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Just because, oh, come on. But in the lightweight division, what I mean is that he doesn't have to fight from the bottom of the ladder
No, I
because of
think
his
he's
MMA
definitely
record.
he's definitely for sure within that top 7 right now.
Exactly. Exactly. And
You would treat him as you would treat a Michael Chandler coming into the company.
with Khabib leaving or not leaving, we don't know.
We'll
And
find out this weekend.
with Khabib cleaning almost all the
Or
division, a
Dan Evans.
Holloway can step in and, there's also that rematch against Conor. But
Yes.
anyway, let's go back to
There's
this fight.
also a rematch against Dustin, possibly.
Exactly. And I feel like this should happen win or lose because Kelvin can actually win this fight. He has a lot of chances. He can finish Holloway,
Calvin
even
Kattar
though.
has more wins than Max Holloway. I know that might like throw a lot of people off when you think about Calvin Kattar.
Yeah.
They might be not as big as names, but Calvin Kattar has 22 wins to Max Holloway's 21. Calvin Kattar is actually 2 years older than Max Holloway. We've just seen Max Holloway throughout his entire career. My question to you is Max Holloway the greatest featherweight champion we've ever seen? Is he the greatest featherweight fighter we've ever seen?
Well, in my opinion, it has to be Conor. People will say, no, he never defended the belt, but the way he moved up the ladder and the way he made it look easy. His only tough fight was against
He
Chad
truly
Mendes.
ended Jose's legacy in 13 seconds.
Yeah, and his only tough fight was against
If he
Chad
didn't end
Mendes.
it, he definitely put a huge asterisk in it.
Yeah, and man, he destroyed everyone. He won against Holloway. He would have even maybe
Justin
finished
first
him
time.
if he didn't get hurt in his feet, but in his foot. So yeah, for me it's Connor. If in my opinion it's Connor. Maybe Holloway afterward because I feel like Aldo is of course Aldo is the legend. He defended his
Yes.
belt for many years, but the
Holloway
level
beat Sound twice.
fighters who he fought, I feel like Holloway level competition level was tougher than Aldo.
You know, I have to agree. When you look at it, you know, the names and what they were able to do in those matchups, I definitely think that Holloway has a stronger case than Aldo.
Yeah.
I think Holloway has the strongest case out of anybody when you talk about the featherweight GOAT. I think for sure, hands down, he's the featherweight GOAT. And I have to agree with your idea of him going to 155 pounds. I think that's the move for him in the future. When you think about it, he's 29 years old.
Yeah.
We're talking about a 29-year-old guy, like just starting to hit the peak of his, you know, athletic career. You know, the prime of your career is that, you know, 30, 29, 32 age. You know what I mean? So that's really when you're starting to be able to do the best to your abilities. So we might not even have seen the best Max Holloway yet. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think for the division, it helps if Kattar wins this fight because it definitely helped. I mean, if Holloway wins, you're not going to give him another shot at Volkanovski.
No, and that's an issue for Dana.
Brian wins. If Brian beats Volkanovski and Holloway beats Kattar, then that's a fight already set up.
That's a possibility, but I feel like
there's a lot of ifs.
either way, man, sooner or later, Holloway will have to move up to the lightweight division, and I feel like it's the time after this fight. I feel like it's really the time.
Give me 3 fights to look for or to look forward to on UFC on ABC 1.
So first of all, I would go with Matt Brown against Carlos Condit. That's a very interesting fight. Personally, I will go with Matt Brown winning. Who's your pick for that fight?
You know, it's hard, especially when you look at what Carlos Condit was able to do in his last fight against Corbett. He looked really good, and he showed us flashes of the old Carlos Condit's back. Maybe, in my mind, thinking that maybe there was an injury that he had to shore up, and that's all taken care of. I'm going to go with Condit just based on his last performance. I think either way, the fans are going to win this fight.
Okay. For my second fight, I will go with Santiago Ponzinibbio because I feel like we will have a flashing return. Like remember when Dominic Cruz returned from his injury and he won by stoppage in the first round. I feel like we will have something like that, and he will put this division on notice. This division that actually no one wants to actually fight. They're all talking. Nobody's fighting in the top division. I'm hating
Kamaru
it.
Usman is technically fighting in February, and Dana has came out and said that they are trying to negotiate a Jorge Masvidal versus Colby Covington fight as well. I know that they talked about moving back Leon Edwards and Chimaev, so that's also an interesting
A lot of talks,
match.
a lot of talks, and not a lot of matches. You know what I mean?
The Usman one is officially signed, sealed, delivered on yours.
I'm not just talking about Usman. I'm talking about the whole top division.
Isn't that all that who that really matters though? At the end of the day.
What?
Isn't that the only one that really matters?
Yes and no, because everybody wants to fight Usman, and Usman cannot fight them all at the same time. You should be fighting. You know what I mean?
Not the Royal Rumble.
Exactly. And for the third fight, I feel like, listen, Buckley, if he wins also this fight and by a huge fashion, they should give him top contenders. 100%. They have to. They have to.
Legitimately, like it just shoots, it skyrockets what he's able to do. And also, too, I want to point out, it makes Kevin Holland's case even that much more stronger, because if you look and see what Holland was able to do to Buckley, it shows how good he is. Exactly. So just the better Buckley looks, the better it is for Holland. I think that's also a huge upside if Buckley is able to win this fight, man. Just put a fucking rocket on that man and shoot him to the moon.
Holland is moving up the ladder quickly. His next fight will be against Derek Brunson. I feel like if he wins against Derek Brunson, they will give him the top contenders. Like
Oh, 100. They have no choice at that point.
those two, man, those two, Buckley and Holland, they are actually like the fighters that will give you those kind of fight of the night, fight of
Yeah.
the year contenders. So just give them the fights, and you will see they will deliver.
So for me, obviously, the main event is phenomenal. We get to see the return of Max Holloway, the featherweight GOAT, Calvin Kattar, this young prospect on the rise. And it's hard to call him a prospect at this point. He's pretty much a veteran, and he's been here forever. It's interesting to see is Kattar ready to fight the guys at this level? Yeah, I mean, obviously, Holloway is not a gatekeeper. He's not somebody who is to be taken lightly. He's not someone you're going to step over, but beating him is a huge stepping stone to when you have to make your case for a title shot. If Calvin Kattar has a 1-2 of Dan Ige, Max Holloway, that looks phenomenal for him. And that honestly, it's really hard to look at other people outside. If I was Kattar, I would just sit back and wait for the title shot at that point.
Exactly. I agree with you.
Battle of the undefeated guys. Pauliana Soriano versus Dusko Turadov. I'm super excited for that one. It's an interesting matchup when you look at those two. Obviously, nobody wants to lose their O, but when you really look down at the bare things, both these guys are dangerous.
Yeah, very dangerous. First fight of the main card, and yeah, like you said, potentially maybe fight of the night.
And then I'm also going to look at the middleweight division. Phil Haas versus Nazardine Imavov in the featured prelim of the preliminary portion of the fight card that is aired on ESPN Plus, which starts on 9 a.m. And what is that for you guys? Like 7, some shit like that? We'll figure it out later. I don't know.
Something like that. Let me tell
but
you.
Excited.
It's like at 6 p.m.
Excited about that one, man. Phil Haas, like I said, outside of the Julian Marquez fight on the Contender Series, has looked lights out and phenomenal. The power he has is amazing. One day down the line, if they can both continue winning, I want to see him versus Buckley.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fights to be made. People are talking about, the Masvidals, the Nate Diaz, the Nick Diaz.
Yes.
Of course, those guys, people love to watch them fight, but I feel like there should be less talk about fighters who actually don't want to fight and more talk about fighters who want to fight.
I absolutely agree with that response, man. I feel like we should be talking about all the guys who are fighting right now, not the guys who could be possibly fighting one day down the road. It's also like we talked about in boxing with the last fight. Fuck these Paul brothers, okay? When you got guys like King Ryan out there looking amazing, eventually gonna one day fighting Gervonta Davis, already guaranteeing a second round knockout. I'm sold. Fucking sign me up. Where's the fight gonna be? Take my money. But right now we're focused on MMA. This fucking weekend, a phenomenal card. And then Wednesday, another good, very, very good card, all leading up to next Saturday's huge return of Conor McGregor fighting Dustin Poirier in the lightweight main event. Also lightweight co-main event, Dan Hooker versus Michael Chandler. We have some great night of fights coming to you in the next 10 days, man. I'm super excited. Anything else for UFC on ABC 1?
I personally, those 2 cards really would build more hype for the actual McGregor card, because for me, like, it's those 2 cards are like 2 very long prelims for the UFC 57, because we are waiting for Conor. I'm waiting for Conor. You see Conor. So yeah, it's all about that fight at the end of the day, I feel like. But yeah, this card is tremendous. Very, very, very important card.
Now, I'm super excited about this UFC 257. I'm excited about Magny versus Yeska. I feel like it's going to be a surprise finish in that one. We'll talk about that a little later on Monday. Holloway versus Kattar. We have Ike Villanueva. He's going to be joining us later on in the show. We should be dropping that episode or dropping that interview in the next couple of days. If you have made it through this far of the episode, thank you guys. We appreciate every single one of you. We appreciate your continued support. Like I said, find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, like us everywhere. And that about wraps it up, guys. Be classy, filthy animals.
Peace.